she believes that the best way to begin is at the beginning with pre-K appreciated programs. Please welcome my guest, LJ Henderson, to the show. Hey, sis.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm
Thanks for
doing
having me
well.
today.
Thank you so much for saying yes. I'm so excited about this episode, and I'm honored that you actually said yes and I get to speak to you because I know you're a very busy woman. You're doing so much in the community. That's why you're here. And I just had to have you on to get to know you a little bit more and to talk about your program and your academy and all the great things you're doing. But before we do that, tell me who LJ Henderson is and what is your why? I know that's like a fully loaded question, but what is your why?
I'm LJ's Henderson. I am Tony's lovely wife of 28 years. I am Essence and Zion's mother. I am the mother to two wonderful puppies, Brody and Pup Pup. I'm a sister, friend, daughter, and advocate for preschool STEM. I am on a mission to globalize preschool STEM for children to make certain that we can actually make a real economic impact in our communities by getting them involved in some of the highest paid occupations.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, considering that I was looking at your education and your background when you're very educated, and I love that, I was like, okay, someone else besides myself that have two master's degrees and all the things. So before you actually, got into the entrepreneur space, like what were you doing before? Or have you always, decided this is something that you wanted to do?
No, I was a speech therapist, a pediatric speech therapist. I work contract work for school districts. I've had my own private practice. I have also taught on a collegiate level. I've taught ESL. I've went back to my alma mater, Texas Southern University, and taught developmental studies. And one of the unique things about me teaching that course was when I initially decided to go to college, I had to take a remedial class. And then I went back and taught the class that I had to take. And the reason that I had to take that class was not because of my lack of intelligence, it was my lack of consistent education. Because in my formative years, we moved around a lot. And so I went to 13 schools before I graduated high school. So I had natural gaps in my learning. So I was not college ready when I was ready to go to college. And Texas Southern University paved the way for me to be able to take those remedial classes to sharpen those skills, and two master's degrees and successful businesses later, here I am.
Oh, wow. So why STEM though? Tell me that.
I believe that a lot of people are afraid of STEM. I didn't choose STEM, STEM chose me. During the pandemic, I had a 24-hour childcare center that I've had for a number of years. But when schools were closing down, if someone coughed, kids had to quarantine, but childcare centers had to be open. And I have an early childcare center. And so, in order for those essential workers to get to work, they needed a place for their kids to go. And so we were getting more school age kids versus early childhood kids that were like 4 and 5 years old. And so I had first and second graders coming from different schools, and everyone was kind of doing their own thing. Remember the old TV show, One of These Kids is doing his own thing?
Yeah.
Up like that during the pandemic, and we were all trying to learn technology, and I saw so many people. There was a huge digital divide. Most kids didn't have an iPad. They were using their mom's hotspot. When she got home from work, multiple kids had to do multiple assignments because everyone was online. And I noticed gaps specifically in math and science for first and second graders. I had first and second graders that didn't know their basic addition. And I was like, we have to do something about this because my 4 and 5 year olds are doing basic addition. And so I developed a product for parents to kind of boost up some of those skills at home. And the parents was like, oh, I don't need anything else to do because they were already overwhelmed. And then parents were going through this thing. I think back then we called it mommy shaming because moms were embarrassed that they didn't know that their kids had those gaps in their learning. And now here I am giving them a product to tell them, do this, do this. And they were like, no, I'm already overwhelmed. And so, because the parents wasn't ready for it, I started talking to other early childhood providers and other early educators and sharing the product with them. And I was, just showing them this is the way that you get kids interested in math. They have to do hands-on stuff. These are simple experiments you could do using products you already have in your classroom or in your kitchen. And so it just turned into this snowball of me being invited to more and more conferences and people wanting videos on how to do it. And for 1 year, I would go live every Tuesday and record what we call STEM with Stanley. And Stanley was our bearded dragon, and Stanley would be our guest for the day. And I would just do live experiments. And sometimes we would have a room full of people, and sometimes no one would show up because of different time zones or just schedules. But I continued to record. And from those recordings, now I have an ed tech solution that I can provide to districts and schools so that they can have how-to instructional videos on how to do experiments with kids. And it's been working well. And I have a lot of education partners now that are really using it to allow their teachers to do the hands-on experimentation within the classroom.
So ed tech solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, that's a new term for me. So tell me more.
Educational technology.
Okay. And you focus, that's your whole, you have a whole a broadcast about it, or podcast, or are you still
No,
doing?
it's not a podcast. So it's just pretty much like I would say a software, but it's not it would be a web-based solution. So pretty much I license it out so people can actually access it just with the website. I have a partnership with T-Mobile, so when they provide devices to school districts, they now have a button that they can click that'll take them directly to my library of resources. So
Oh,
it's a yeah.
I like it. I like it. So what has been some of the biggest challenges that you faced so far since you've been in business for STEM?
I think the biggest challenge is getting people to understand that kids can do STEM at this early age. I don't know how much you know about the structure of my program, but what differentiates our programs from other early childhood centers, our students are learning from skilled professionals daily. So we have medical students on our team. We have computer scientists on our team. When I started my business, I had a master level engineer, I had a civil engineer, mechanical engineer, and I have engineering students. So when I say that our kids are doing STEM, they're learning from STEM professionals, not just early childhood professionals. So they're getting exposure to complex concepts and learning with the rigor that isn't really happening at ABC Academy. Because like I want them to learn from skilled professionals. And so we actually, when we interview and hire people, we're looking for diverse people. Like we've had a zoologist on our team because we wanted to study animals, and it was a student and he was just here for 1 semester, but we studied zoology, we did shark dissections, we learned about habitats, we learned about exotic animals. So I'm just presenting students with a type of experience that they wouldn't normally get at a traditional school that's just working on phonics and math and handwriting.
I love that, because and that's another reason why I went into the type of business I went into as well, because the exposure is a huge thing, and because a lot of our Black and brown students don't have that resource and they don't have that
Mhm.
opportunity, and to hear that you're building that based off of the exposure, and that's what we're needing. And I think another thing, as far as the education system, we're so focused on how we used to do things, how we used to learn, and the information that our students are getting is so vast and so quick that we're losing it. And so they're not
Mhm.
receiving it in such a way to actually be successful for tomorrow. We're still focusing on how we used to do things. And to hear you say that you're bringing in the professionals saying, hey, this is what's relevant right now, and they're learning it in real time as a preschooler, that's really, really
Yes.
good, because by the time they hit elementary, middle school, if they want to go into continue the STEM program, go into a robotics, what have you, you setting that foundation for success.
Yes, and so, like, if you think about, like, I know when I was when junior high, we had a dissection day, and told my mom my stomach hurt. I didn't want to go to school to dissect anything because I thought it was icky. But our kids come to school, they don't know what they're going to do. Like, we just give the topics to the parents per week. And so when we did our anatomy week, like they did brain dissections, they did heart dissections. And so we have these little kids holding a brain or holding and learning about that there's four lobes of the brain and what each lobe is responsible for. So now when they have to dissect, they're going to remember because they're not afraid. And so we instill fear in our children a lot of times by not exposing them. But our kids are fearless in math and science because they don't know what they're going to get when they come to school. And right now they're at the age to where they're not afraid of anything and they're willing to try new things. And so we don't put any limits on them. They're like, "Ooh, it stinks." Okay, it does stink. Now what?
It does. I remember my first class when I think we did
Yes.
the frog, and it was definitely not something you will never
But
forget for
see,
sure.
now because of the processes, it's not the old school formaldehyde that's burning your eyes and your nose. It's a different process now. So it's not as bad as it used to be. So yeah.
I'm aging myself. Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying. So you walk in the whole
Yes.
class, the whole hallway, you smell it. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we know what you're doing
Yeah.
for the week. Okay, got it. I love
Yeah.
it. So what other programs are you offering?
Right now, I have a what I call STEM Masters, and that's where we actually go in and do job embedded support or coaching for schools. So for some schools, they have like a science, like let's say first year teacher or an apprentice, and they're already struggling with classroom management and being a new teacher. And so to add in now you have to do this hands-on experiment, they're afraid because they're like, oh, the kids are gonna be crazy or it's gonna be messy or just helping them manage that. So we've been able to actually have our instructors go in and do lab demos to actually demonstrate or to be an extra hand in the classroom for the teachers. We've also partnered with schools like on National STEM Day. We have an education partner with Stafford Municipal School District. We provided STEM rotations there this year they study computer science. And so we developed five different station rotations for 430 kids. And so for National STEM Day, we were there talking to them about algorithms, and they were able to learn binary coding by making bracelets. They had an interactive action station where they had to code the animals to do different actions. So we've been able to help schools find a creative way, an engaging way to get their kids excited about science. And so that's one of the things that we're doing now is going into schools and offering that support or coming in with our team and just doing like a STEM takeover.
Ah, are you a for-profit or nonprofit?
So the academy is for profit, but we do have a nonprofit, and our nonprofit or arm is STEM Masters, and that's where we actually collaborate and do things in the community and partner with other organizations. Like we've worked with Jack and Jill, we've worked with the Links organization for some of their STEM initiatives. So we're always looking for other educational partners who have an initiative for STEM, especially if it aligns with our target age group, which is the preschool age, and we can support older ones, but I'm all about early exposure. I believe today's preschooler is tomorrow's workforce. And so we have to get them started early. So even if they're like, hey, it's for third through 12th grade, I'm like, can we break it down just a little bit? Can we find any kinder first grade kids? Because by third grade, I mean, I'm not going to say it's too late, but we need to get started early in order to really build those skills.
So, I'm glad you said that. So, because my question was, the success rate, the results from what you're doing, have you seen a drastic change by the time they actually start in your program? Like, what are the results that you're seeing? What are your parents saying about your program and all of that?
Yeah, so our rate has been an 87% success rate. 87% of the students that finish our program test directly into test directly into first grade, and many of them test into GT programs. We've had an 87% success rate. Parents are they're wanting STEM because they're like they want something different, they want something more challenging. So a lot of our parents are engineers or medical professionals because that's just kind of they want their kids to have that. And we're one of the few schools that we are a STEM school, so we're not just doing STEM as part of our program. We are a STEM school, so we have parents that are seeking us out, parents that relocate to the area that are looking for that. So we have a lot of parents that come by way of the medical center. I would say 65 to 70% of our parents are either medical professionals or engineers of some sort.
And that's how I found you, to be honest, because I was like, because
Mhm.
my youngest son, and I've identified he's very good in math and science. And so I'm like, okay, I need a STEM program because he wants, I want to focus on the engineering piece of it, but also the technology because I know we're in the technology stage. And that's how I actually came across. And I was like, oh, and I know when I messaged you. I'm like, oh, you only focus on pre-K, and I'm like, oh, this is not it. But then I started deep diving, and I'm like, you know what? This is something, a program that I really admire that you're focusing on, a younger group because it prepares them, and that's what they need, and that's why I
Mhm.
reached out, and I'm glad you said yes because. Someone that I actually started my business outside of my podcast because of preparing for high school, that transitional state. And everyone
Mhm.
was like, oh, focus on the high school, but eighth grade is literally, you want to start having those conversations in middle school because they're so afraid of what's next. And
Yes.
if you get them out of their shell and having those conversations to be prepared for ninth grade, it makes things so much easier.
Mhm.
And not only for you but for the parent and the student. So but yeah, but you're doing so much, and I know that you are speaking and all these great things. So you just recently went to Atlanta and
Mhm.
at the Black Entrepreneur Day, right?
Mhm.
How was that?
It was actually pretty great. I had an opportunity to meet a lot of people in business and make different connections. I mean, they had everyone there from Earn Your Leisure talking about financials and investing. They had businesses like Hilton for Business and was saying how important it is for entrepreneurs to have those type of travel rewards or look into programs like that so that they can actually have some savings. Flavor Flav was there, so he gave us the hip hop. He played instruments. He talked about, just being true to who you are and don't switch up on people. Then Chameleonaire performed. I was sitting like within arm's reach of Les Brown. And then I got to do some networking afterwards at the VIP reception. So it was a pretty rewarding experience. What I got from it, I got there because of my partnership with T-Mobile for Education, and T-Mobile actually gave out a $25,000 grant to one of the um, Black businesses that Damon's organization selected. And so, because I'm a T-Mobile partner and because I'm Black, they invited me to be a part of the event. But the benefit was that Damon John's team recorded a video commercial about my work with the Little STEM Academy, which was broadcasted live during the event to over, I think, 4 million people. And so I now have that digital asset to use in my marketing of him talking about my work. So although I didn't get the $25,000 grant, I got something that was much more valuable. So it was just a great opportunity. And I'm, just really honored that they are shining a light on STEM. So it just goes to show, a lot of times you just have to do the work and keep showing up. I had originally applied for a grant for T-Mobile has an event called Unconventional Award, and I didn't get the Unconventional Award, and I would have had to fly myself out there for the award, hotel stay, and all that. But I didn't get that award. But because they wanted me to come for the Damon John, they paid for me to go out there, and I got the asset. So that was more valuable than me investing in going there to see sort of like the pitch competition thing. So it was pretty good.
So I want the listeners to hear what she just said because I like that. That was fire what you just stated. Because sometimes you think you're going and she submitted for a grant that she did not receive, but was she decided she wanted to do something different. She went out after it anyway. And sometimes we allow things to stop us in the process because we think that was not for us. But you keep going. You kept going. And that's what I'm like. Not only am I hearing you say that, but all the accolades and the proximity and the people that you're meeting based off of the work that you're doing is amazing.
Mhm.
And so
Yes.
with that, it shows as an entrepreneur, a Black woman doing business that is giving back to her community with all of the opportunity that we have to continue this type of work. And
Mhm.
that's why I wanted you on the show. So if there's a woman that has actually listened to, she's in education or she want to start her own business, she wants to start a STEM academy, or she wants to do something similar to what you're doing, what advice would you give her?
Mm. You know, it's gonna sound, I don't know. It's something that a message that I received from one of a coach that I had at one time. And she said, choose your lane and then hog your lane. And I
Mm.
was like, what does that mean? So she was like, nobody can outdo you. And whatever lane you're in, you make sure that you hog that lane. Like nobody can do little STEM like me. No one can do STEM for kids like me. And I truly believe that because of what I'm doing. Now, are people doing some similar stuff? Yes, but can't nobody do it like me. You know, and I'm my own competition and I'm constantly feeding myself information. I'm constantly like, I'm being coached, I'm being trained, I'm going to science conferences, I'm learning the greatest. And then I'm bringing that information back to enhance my program to make me better for the partners that I'm being positioned for. So never stop learning and don't compete with anybody else. I would just say that never stop learning and you're your own competition.
I love it. I love it. And I do agree. Stay in your own lane and focus because I think the noise is real. I think when you start
Mm-hmm.
focusing on what everybody else is doing on social media, you lose sight of what your message is, what God is sending to you, and how you're going to bless whomever your audience is, which right now is your preschoolers. And so I agree with that advice. I really, really do. So go ahead.
So many people like they always, and even in education they're like, oh well, we need this for our third graders or we need this for our eighth graders, because you know eighth graders a testing year, fifth graders a testing year for science. But I'm like, I'm the preschool lady, I can work with the fifth graders, I can work with the eighth graders, but my goal is really to make certain that we are exposing kids early during the most critical period of brain development. Like a child's brain is at 90% capacity by age 5. So when we send a kindergartner to school, we're working with 10% of brain capacity for the rest of their child's life. If we can get them this rigor in math and science and develop these critical thinking skills, because we want them to be thinkers, we want them to be problem solvers, because that's when innovation happens. Doesn't matter if they choose a STEM career, they can still solve a problem or make an invention or enhance whatever it is that they decide to do. But if we don't build that capacity during the critical period of brain development, we lose that opportunity. So that's why I'm really like the preschool STEM pioneer. Like I am the gem of STEM. And I want you guys to know that we have to start early. And so it's hard to stay in this space because everyone is like, we need you here, we need you there, we need this. And I'm like, y'all have stuff over there. But there are not enough, I think, investments in programs yet in early STEM, but continue to just watch it. It's going to happen. And what are we going to say? You heard it here first. You heard it first on the Sly Ed Experience podcast. You heard it here first. Yes. So, I mean, just keep watching. I mean, and you're going to say, she said it. The Gym of STEM said it. Yes, it
Yes.
may not happen this year. It may not happen next year, but I'm looking at curriculum development because I'm writing curriculum as well. And more companies are starting to include STEM in their curriculums. Head Start programs are starting to focus on STEM. So I'm like, okay, well, let's give kids a head start in STEM. You know, let's get some more STEM education resources for these early childhood programs. So that's what I'm doing. That's my work.
Yes, I agree with you 2000%. 2000% because of where we are headed. And
Mhm.
so you're ahead of the curve and I think you're exactly where you need to be. And consider, like I just stated, my 12-year-old is he's that's where I want him to be because I try to educate and give my two boys the proximity of the things that I want for tomorrow. And so I know the way I learned and how I receive information is totally different than them, so
Yes,
I can't teach them the way, how it what was, and because it's not gonna they're
back
not
in the
gonna be
day.
able to say exactly.
No.
Exactly. So tell me what's next for Little Stems Academy and also LJ Henderson's brand.
Okay, so the brand, right now I'm working on my TEDx and perfecting my craft for my keynote. Um, there will be a book released and a workbook for schools to use. As far as the academy, we are looking for more education partners that could actually come in and provide the on the job training. So I'm looking to partner, let's say, with a college or university. And if they have medical students, those medical students if we're on the same campus, those medical students can now come on site and actually do their work study jobs at the Little STEM Academy.
I
So
might,
I'm looking for
you know
that.
what? I might have some people for you. Well, I know my nephew's actually in. He goes to A&M for
Mhm.
engineering. So there you go. But I also, yeah, we need to talk for sure. I love
Mhm.
that because I love the way your thought process on the partnership because it allows for growth. It allows for everything that you're stating. Cool. So where can the listeners find you and connect with you if they're interested in your program and actually, helping out and becoming a partner?
Yeah, so you can go to littlestemlab.com on all social media platforms. I'm LJ Henderson. Our school is Little STEM Academy on all social platforms. And then you can also look up Little STEM Masters for partnerships or collaboration. Um, we will actually be partnering with the Children's Museum to do a STEM day for them in December for neurodivergent students. So we'll be doing some sensory activities and snowmaking with them. So we have partners that are coming from a variety of sources, but if there's anything that you have going on in your community, just reach out to us at littlestemlab.com and send us a request, and we will see our best if we can accommodate or support your events.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. You're awesome.
Thank you.
This has been another great episode of the Sly Ed Experience podcast where successors lead you through education and determination. I am your host, Latasha Sly, and as always, be blessed. Take care.